right, guys, welcome to the Dr. Dex podcast. I must say, Calvin, that intro music is incredible. Thank you very much for that. Today, we have a gentleman named Joe Mastersanti? Santi. Joe Mastersanti?
Mastersanti.
Santi. Yeah. I don't know why. I always pronounce it with a on instead of an an. Would that be a lowercase vowel instead of an uppercase vowel?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say it the same way as you do. So
yeah, but to do it properly is important. Santi, Master Santi.
Yes, sir.
You're the master of all Santi.
I guess so.
All right. Is there any history behind that name?
Italian, obviously, but
okay.
I mean, it's more. My father and my family have gone down the rabbit hole of the ancestry and all that stuff. I know it's something to do with Sicily, and a lot of his side of the family came from Italy and over the boat and this, that, and the other
cool.
thing. Most of them lived in Yonkers, and then everybody kind of dispersed. So
where's Yonkers?
New York, outer boroughs in New York.
Which is like outskirts of New York City? Or?
Yeah, yes, yep.
Okay. All right, forgive my ignorance, but I'm going to act like I don't know so that everybody else that's listening can
problem.
If they're not good at geography or whatever.
For sure.
I mean, that's kind of cool. We'll talk about, are you familiar with New York at all? Where are you located?
I'm in Connecticut.
First of all, wait. Okay, hold on. Hit the brakes. Joe, introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name's Joe Mastersanti. I am the, head employee or owner of Outdoor Space Builders. We're located out of Oxford, Connecticut, which is about 15 minutes outside of what Dave Portnoy has made the kind of the pizza capital of the world, New Haven. So we eat a lot of good pizza, I guess.
Yeah,
and
good pizza.
Yeah, for sure. And so Outdoor Space Builders been around since 2018. Before that, we were doing a lot of commercial, building restaurants and so on and so forth. So there's a story behind, which I'm sure we'll probably get into at some point, but we're a very close family. I was working with my father. My father ended up getting very sick, almost ended up passing away, and afterwards he didn't have the ability to do some of the very heavy work that we were doing before. So before we were doing the more complicated decks that we are now, pressure treated 10 by 10, 12 by 12 decks were a lot more simple. You didn't have to hold your drill way up here. You were more down here, on your knees, and it was a lot easier for him to handle. So I have a 3.5-year-old daughter, wife. We're just a family. That's pretty much what you see with us is what you get.
Okay.
I'm born and raised in Connecticut, grew up in Ansonia, Connecticut. And so I live about 10 minutes outside of where I grew up. And,
oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, Connecticut's kind of a weird state, for business. We're kind of centralized in where we work. A lot of people know the Fairfield County, Greenwich, Darien, Connecticut. We definitely go down there, but, there's certainly a part of the state more up north that, you got Sherman, Connecticut. Kevin Bacon lives there, so there's definitely money spread out all over the place here. So we kind of try to centralize, and, you kind of have to live where your business kind of is. So
yeah, how far away will you go from your central hub? What's your radius, your distance that you'll travel?
Yeah, so we'll do the whole state of Connecticut. So I guess realistically from home base, I think hour and 20, hour and a half.
That's
is
pushing it, huh?
Yeah, really kind of gets us to the tip, almost near that like Rhode Island or down near that New York City range.
Okay. All right. My geography is terrible, so forgive me if I keep asking you different questions like that.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
I've actually been in your neighborhood. I was just there about a month ago.
You have absolutely.
And you and I and we'll get into all that, but you kind of already struck some curiosity in me. You'll see these questions mark pop up over the top of my head. Like your heritage is strong. So I don't think I've really spoke with, maybe with Kevin Haney, but because he's all about the Viking heritage, right?
He
But
is.
Italian. So do you like Italian food?
Love Italian food.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, who doesn't like Italian food, right?
Well,
But
I mean, yeah, I get it. But being true blooded, what percentage of you are you full blooded Italian, or are you
definitely
like?
not. No, so I'm kind of a mutt. I definitely have
Mm-hmm.
Polish there, Irish.
Okay.
I am a good portion Italian. But
Okay.
yeah, love Italian food. I mean, I get pizza, but love pizza. Love my pasta Wednesday with my garlic bread, and
Okay. Cool.
yeah, I'm a very simple eater. I'm sure we'll touch on kind of our past and stuff, but I'm a very simple eater. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
creature of habit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I like is what I stick to. So, in business, obviously that's somewhat difficult sometimes because
Sometimes.
you want to try to push the envelope in always what you're doing and learn new things and try new things. And I think we always get very comfortable in what we're doing and we get good at something and it naturally just you tend to stay stagnant sometimes. So, being a creature of habit, it's somewhat difficult sometimes to break that and go on to something different.
So your grandparent, who came here first? Was it your
So
great grandparents, or do
it
you know?
was I believe it was my great grandparents
Mm-hmm.
um, came here, like I said, came into New York and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of quickly went out of the city into Yonkers. Um,
Okay.
Kind of the family history from there gets a little discombobulated, so on and so forth. I think um, being Italian straight from Italy in New York way back when, I don't really know. I know there was like a little like candy store or something like that way back when in Yonkers that of some family member owned at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't really we don't really talk to that side of the family much because there's so many of them, and it's kind of one of those situations to where they stayed extremely close, and us being in Connecticut, you tend to lose touch a little bit, and
Of course.
family stuff. I mean, it's
Sure.
so I've definitely met some of that family. I've met my father's aunt and uncle, and from what I remember, really super nice people. I know I've driven through the neighborhood in Yonkers where they lived and that, but more like family reunions are more on like my mother's side. So that's the Irish Polish side,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I think family is a weird thing, right? Some people are extremely close to their immediate and whole extended family, and then you have other families that you're all cordial and you coexist, and when you see each other it's very nice, but then when you leave each other it's just kind of okay, like if you hear something about somebody you shoot them a call, but other than that it's kind of status quo, and I think that's more of where we are. Our immediate
Mm-hmm.
family, we're
Mm-hmm.
extremely close and together, and then outside of that we kind of, I'm not going to say lost touch, but we don't really make the phone call every month.
Sure. Well, it's life, man.
It
Life
is.
goes on, and anybody that runs and owns their own business knows that that part of your life always stays an infant. So you're always nurturing and feeding and doing and changing the diapers of your business. Where as people grow up and you grow apart, your business you don't. You're always like really tied to it to be successful. That's one thing I've really noticed. But so okay, so like you guys migrated and into Connecticut, and when you were growing up? What was that like? Did you what kind of a grade school did you go to, and so on and so forth?
So moved from Ansonia to Oxford in third grade. So I started third grade, so new school right off the bat there. Um, my parents built their house in Oxford, so we went from Ansonia, which is more of like a city type of town, to Oxford, which at that point, which is now built up, but at that point was kind of like an old school hickish farm town. So it was, dirt bikes and quads riding down
Oh,
the
cool.
road. Yeah, nobody bothered
Yeah.
you. Hunting, everybody, there's a 4 acre minimum for property. So everybody's
Oh,
got
wow.
a decent sized property. And, I was never really a big school person,
Hmm.
which is funny listening to the podcast and trades. It seems like a lot of us aren't really school people, right?
Right.
Definitely ADD, ADHD. If I'm not really interested in it, I really don't make time for it. Um, physically or mentally, maybe not so good, but it's the truth. And, so went through middle school and then high school. What happened is Oxford doesn't, or at that point, didn't have their own high school. So you had the choice to go to the next town over, Seymour High School. There's another town, Monroe, so you could have went to Monroe Massac High School, or you could have went to one of two trade schools, which that's what I chose to do. So I went to Emmett O'Brien in Ansonia, Connecticut, so right up the street from where I really grew up. And funny enough, ended up picking culinary arts. Um, so did the cooking thing for 4 years there, and then natural progression of ended up going to college up in Hyde Park. I went to the Culinary Institute of America
Hmm.
and, graduated there. That I, backing up a little bit, the trade school I very much enjoyed. So it was definitely the right fit for me because it was, you had a little bit of academics and then you would switch to your trade. So just about when my mind has had enough of dealing with the academic side, it was okay, like it's time to go back to the trade, like what I enjoy doing.
Mm.
And so I went to college for culinary, learned a lot, met it was an international college, so everybody came there, flocked there. From my roommate, one was from Massachusetts, one was from the Philippines the second year, and the first year, one of my roommates, his father was actually the corporate executive chef for Outback Steakhouse. So
Mm.
you meet a lot of very cool people, and that was a really fun experience, even though I don't do it anymore. But everybody always asks me, "Oh, like, do you love to cook?" Once you've done it for a job, right? I when I want to cook, I very much enjoy cooking, but I definitely don't cook very much. Definitely not as much as I should have, having the debt that I came out of that college with. But
Right.
but
Yeah, but have you retained your skill set
I
for the culinary?
I have. I still have all my fancy knives, and I kept my chef coats all nice. So we
Oh,
reminisce every once in a
nice.
while. But yeah, listen, I have some commercial appliances in our home. I have a really nice grill. I really enjoy grilling. So
Hmm.
you know, owning a business, right, where you just touched on, you don't get as much time as an employee or like a 9 to 5 or usually would. So, sometimes it's the case of like, oh man, like, I have to cook this tonight because I've been marinating something, but it's somewhat rushed. Um, so yeah, when I get the time to cook, usually holidays, love cooking, definitely retain my skills, even though, I'll definitely slice myself because, you know, I try to cut as quickly as I used to, and definitely requires a little bit of practice. So
I bet. What kind of knives do you have?
Kyroceras, I believe is how
Hmm.
you pronounce them. I have their titanium knives. Um, in kitchens, they don't hold any bacteria or any flavor. So in a kitchen, you're prepping. Sometimes you're going from one vegetable to it's very high paced production. So I like those because they didn't really hold bacteria or any flavor from another vegetable. I'm a big shun fan. Um, I'm a big sucker for Damascus. I love like true Damascus knives. So Shun, I have their, like their hand hammered Damascus stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much it. I think I have like
Hmm.
one or two globals that were like my quick prep knives. I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of
no,
them, to tell
dude.
you the truth, but
You know what I use my global for? Opening
okay.
cardboard shipment boxes. That's the only thing global knives are good for is opening envelopes.
Yeah, I don't know. I found I have a lot of like one like single sided edge knives, that were
Mm-hmm.
like handmade. I couldn't even tell you the name of them. My parents got them for me, and they're extremely nice, but they're
Mm-hmm.
extremely hard to sharpen because they don't have like a bevel. It's a one-sided.
Gotcha.
So they stay
Gotcha.
extremely sharp, but the
Hmm.
steel's a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know. I bought my wife like some like I don't know, like the Pioneer Woman, like a cheap set. I keep them really sharp, and that's like my everyday if I'm cutting something. But
Mm-hmm.
every once in a
Mm-hmm.
while, I'll bring out like the really nice knives and have a little fun with them. But
Right on. I'm the same way, man. I got my chef knives stay in my automotive chest in my kitchen.
see, yeah,
But then the ones in the block is for any. I have a set of Hankels for everybody to use,
yeah,
and then I have some really nice knives that Kiki got me over the years, and I have some of those. I have some of those Kyocera or Kyocera, whatever it's called, Kyocera. I have some ceramic ones
yeah. Those are really
that are
nice.
extremely sharp, but you got to send those in for sharpening once you
Yeah,
dull them out.
and you can't
And then
drop
I
them.
have right, you can't drop them.
Yeah, you
I
got to be
dropped one
careful.
and broke the tip on it,
Yeah.
and then I've got a couple of those Damascus style shuns that you talked about.
Love them.
And then I have a really nice set of Wusthoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I just always, I don't know why, for no reason other than I guess I just never owned any of those. I know they're great
Mm-hmm.
knives.
Yeah.
I've kind of
They're
recently gotten
upper.
into the pocket knife thing. Like I love,
Oh, cool.
yeah, I've gotten like a couple Benchmades and, I'll go on and, buy different scales and stuff for them. So, um, I mean, I carry a pocket knife every day, right? So, might as well, I guess, have a nice
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Right on. Okay, so when you got out of college, culinary college, what did you do after that?
So, kind of the restaurant thing, right? So, I went in and just started paying my dues. Got into some what I would call good restaurants, and just kind of started working myself up, honing skills. One thing about culinary school is it's kind of to the book, right? Like, oh, like this is how you make this sauce, and it's very classical. To where then you go into a restaurant and it's all about the dollar, right? It's all about making it right, but making it also quickly. And, like hollandaise is probably my best example. In culinary school, they were teaching you, oh, like make a 30 egg hollandaise sauce using a whisk and a double broiler. And I went into my first kitchen and they were like, what are you doing? Like put it in a blender or something. You know what I mean? Like you're taking an hour to whisk eggs. Like this is ridiculous. So college was definitely a good base, but then from there just went, restaurant to restaurant, different styles, different techniques, different chefs. Definitely did the country club thing, the breakfast thing, um, some Italian. We did some steak, some more higher end. Um, I actually then I went ahead and opened a restaurant that was breakfast and lunch, mostly breakfast, but it definitely did touch on lunch on the weekends. And it was kind of a sad story that I was so young. I think I was 21 years old. I think I was 21 years old. And sorry about that. I was 21 and I opened that, took everything we had and opened the restaurant. And the owner sold the building. So his thing was like, hey, either, the new owner wants a 5 year lease. So either sign a 5 year lease or, I'll give you the building first because you're already in there. And it was in Ansonia. I really wasn't ready to commit to that location. It just wasn't the type of area I saw my restaurant growing in, and definitely wasn't in a position at that age to buy that building. So I went ahead and we moved on from that, and that's where the construction started. I was always dabbling back and forth and doing the building and figuring things out and so on and so forth. So um, my father had a rather big sign business. So within that, he was doing a lot of mall work. And within that mall work, he got the ability to start doing build outs and stuff. And that's where the commercial side went in. So we would go in, Westfield shopping malls, at the time had like the three major malls in Connecticut. Well, there's another brand, but three of the bigger malls in Connecticut. So I was building, Subways and Saberos and, Panera
Oh,
Breads.
okay.
Not solely, definitely at that age, but we definitely had our hands in a lot of those. We were more controlling the remodels of those, and then within we would have our hands in, making sure all those were done. So more or less GCing those projects. Um, and then when that stuff started slowing down, because of just time and change, malls aren't what they used to be anymore. So there's not all that work that needs to be done. So we just went out and, started building commercial buildings from the ground up. And then, like I said, then my father got sick, and
Hmm.
that's where the deck thing came out. We started building
Okay.
decks. That's where it all started.
Okay, and it kind of stuck, huh?
I think so. Um, I'd like to think so. It
Well, it
definitely,
seems so.
yeah, right. It definitely, we're definitely not the pressure treated 10 by 10 deck guy anymore.
Hmm.
Um, I think we all make a choice in business. Do we want to be not necessarily the cheap guy, but the more basic guy, or do we want to be the guy that people sought out to build them something special? And that's what I like to think that we are. People sought us out to build them something different, not just your cookie cutter square. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not usually our clientele. And, we definitely build our squares and rectangles, but, with different details and the way we do things, that's more what we like to focus on.
So, how long were you in the commercial game for?
So I want to say so we started doing this 2018. So I would say I was doing it for a good 5 years, before all that happened. And, when I was in high school, I was already into kitchens. So I was already working in kitchens, and then again helping, I would come home from school and help my dad out doing what he was doing. We're close. So, I was his son. I would come
Hmm.
home and
Hmm.
whatever dad needed, I'd be there.
Hmm.
So, you know, after I graduated, I didn't go right into the field. I did a couple projects, working with him. So yeah, I believe a good 5 years that we were doing the commercial side, and somewhat dabbling in residential, right? If somebody would see, and oh hey, like I need an addition, okay, like no problem. It definitely is a different world though, both codes and um,
Oh yeah, way
expectations,
different.
budgets, timelines. When you're dealing with like a Sabero store, it's
Payment schedule.
yeah, it's payment schedules, and it's PMS colors for signage, and you have a designer saying, well, like this is the tile, this is the tile that we need, and you're getting stuff shipped in, and you're dealing with sign vendors that are coming in and putting up the signage, and um, so I think it's not necessarily more moving pieces, it's just different moving pieces. And I somewhat really like the commercial world. I mean, we do decks and rails sometimes commercially, and I definitely love the commercial world. It's a change for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If you've never done it before, I've done a couple commercial things, not many, but I was kind of like, wow, they really crunch down on certain things. Like the building inspectors, they are different. They act different. They're not as relaxed as your local building inspector for a residential is, and they're very much sticklers for certain things. I've come to find out.
So do you have different? So I mean, I know you're in Washington. Do you have when you say not as relaxed? Do you have two different inspectors? Like one would be for commercial, one for residential?
At least the guy that I had for this commercial job we did, I'd never met him before, and I'm not 100% certain on that, but it just seemed like I had a different echelon that I had to build to
Yeah, for sure.
for this commercial project, and they kept calling me like, okay, so the one thing that gets me about building inspections is if you're going to come out and correct me, please correct me on everything at the same time. Give me a list. Don't give me one or two things. Give me everything that you can think of or that you see that's an issue so I can correct them all and then call you back and get my final so I get paid.
For sure.
Don't give me two things and then come back and then tell me, oh yeah, you need to do this, this, and this. And it's like, wait a minute. I just spent 2 weeks doing your corrections, or a week or a day or whatever, however long it took, and then come back and tell me I need to do a bunch more crap. Because that's harassment at that point, I feel. Like, oh, because you didn't pick up on it last time you were here, and now you're going to call me out on it? That's bull.
Yeah, no,
But
yeah,
anyway,
100% agreed. We find, at least in Connecticut, I find that it's usually the higher end towns, or the towns, with a lot more money within them. Um, I think they're more sticklers, or ahead of time. It takes a lot more to get that permit.
yeah,
But, just like you, right? You don't cut corners. If you're the guy that's cutting corners and trying to get stuff through, you're going to have issues either way. So, but you're exactly right. We've had inspectors come out, and, when the code changed, when they were starting to look for like tension ties and stuff like that, it was, nobody was kidding, because everybody runs off a different year code book, so
right,
we have towns we've gotten 5 permits in the last month, and all 5 are working off a different code book. So with that being said, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to build to the newest code book to my ability. You know what I mean? So, we just put
right,
tension ties on everything. We just, obviously, the hangers and this, that, and the other thing, but um, helical piles, right? Helical piles are, they're gaining popularity, they're gaining knowledge, but we still go into towns where, we bring them all the engineering for the helical piles, and, they're looking at you like, what is this pipe? And it's like, well, here's all the engineering, and, okay, well, I need the specs and what it can hold. And I'm like, well, here's the engineering on, based on this, what I need to bring this pile to be able to hold this.
hmm,
But I can't tell you exactly how deep, or if I need an extension, or, how many PSI or differential torque I have until I'm done. You're going to get that
right,
that sheet once I'm done. And there's still a lot of people that don't understand that. And so that's probably one of the biggest things now that we somewhat run into with inspectors. That, and I would say flashing details. Because I think we tend to go a good above and beyond on our flashing details, because it's the customer's house, right? I think it's like one of the things that contractors don't take enough time, because they're in the rush to get paid, right? They're in the rush to get that deck in, get out. And flashing is just such an important thing. Nobody wants to take those couple pieces of cedar clapboard off the house because, oh, we got to go buy a couple pieces of siding, or, it's on that last day, it's that couple hours more that we have to spend putting siding back on the house. So,
right.
I think those are the two things that we somewhat run into. Other than that, we're building decks, whether you're curving or inlaying, that doesn't really change the base structure of what we're building.
Right. Right. Hey, I've got some. There is some things I want to touch on the deck board bending
Uh-oh,
and
let's
like our
go.
fees and all that. Well, we're gonna save some of that for our bonus episode.
Absolutely.
So if you wanna hear a little bit about what I'm charging and what Joe's charging, and that kind of thing, and some of the time and temperatures and things like that are top secret, you're gonna have to subscribe to our Patreon channel to get that information. So don't forget, there's a link down below. Correct? There's a link down below. Definitely go check that link to get that information. We'll be putting that up here pretty quick. So, okay, Joe. So, how many years total do you think you spent in the culinary part of your career, and how old are you now?
So I'm 34. I'm a
Okay, so
young
you're pretty
young
young.
guy. Yeah, young guy,
Yeah,
young
you're
guy.
pretty young.
I would say, I wasn't supposed to be in kitchens, but we knew people that owned restaurants. So, I think I was working in restaurants 13, um,
Mm-hmm.
being as, safe as we could. But
Sure.
and then, like I said, right up through college, I spent a good few years doing that. So I would say, probably a good like 12 years, 13 years, in the culinary field. Um,
So you were like 25 ish, and
yeah,
then is that when? Okay, and then that's when you decided I'm gonna work with my dad and guys get started in doing like construction? Or your dad was
Yeah.
already in construction,
Yeah.
and you
So
joined him on his quest, or what?
yeah. So I mean, his sign business was, he wasn't just like the vinyl sticker guy.
Mm-hmm.
He had router tables and all kind of big bucket trucks. So he was fabricating the channel letters and the light boxes and putting them up in place, and all kind of welders and so on and so forth. So
My
um,
brother was a neon artist, and he was a sign maker,
I
and
love neon
he.
stuff.
He was doing all that kind of stuff, and I learned a lot about vinyl application because I used to go down and help him make signs and things like that as well. So, when you said your dad's a sign maker, I have a special. I didn't know that. I've met your dad. I've talked to your dad several times
You have,
at
yeah.
many events, and we've always had these great conversations. But I never knew that he had a background in that. And just, dude, let me ask you a question. How much has sign making affected the way you apply waterproof membrane tape to your framing?
So, okay. So it's not even, I mean, let's take it 5 steps further, right? It's about how if we tie back a house, if
Mm-hmm.
we, anything, like if there's a wrinkle, it's like, it can't, yeah. So it's affected quite a bit, being able to, we cut the paper halfway and, like
Yeah.
we use Benjamin Obdike a lot,
Okay.
so you have the self-adhesive
Mm-hmm.
hydro gap, and we're sitting there, and it's like, oh, watching the wrinkles, and it drives our guys nuts because they're like, guys, like it's just
You're
Tyvek, like
never
it's
gonna
gonna
see
get
it.
covered, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a wrinkle, like
Yeah, you got to do it right, man.
come on, zip tape. If we're
Yeah.
using the zip tape, I don't like when the zip tape's all like squiggly line down, and at the end of the day, yeah, I mean it does it waterproof it? Yeah. But they wouldn't put the dash lines on zip tape if it wasn't meant to be nice and straight.
I think
So,
everybody that's in business for themselves needs to take a 1 week crash course at a sign making company
right?
just to learn how to apply vinyl decals to signs or your cars or anything like that, because there's an art to it, man. But once you get it, then you kind of get it. And you learn, like, screw application fluid, man. I'm gonna drop this baby right on there, and I'm gonna smooth it out, and it's gonna be perfect. Or, play it safe and drop a little bit of fluid on there and squeegee it out, you know?
Well, even now the
Uh,
stuff has changed so much. I mean,
yeah.
now they have, it's called Aerograss vinyl, and it has almost like a dinosaur print, or like a
Mm,
grid work on the back. So, you stick it and you have an air bubble, it's meant to just kind of rub out the air bubble. That's what they do. Like
mm,
when they do like the big wraps and stuff like that,
sure.
so you can,
That makes sense.
yeah, you're able to really like ultra heat the stuff now, and really, the goal is
Yeah.
to really not stretch it. People watch wraps and they're like, oh, like, why don't you just stretch it? Well, the
Mm-hmm.
goal is to not stretch, as much as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely, if you need a sticker, I definitely know how to do some of those. But yeah,
Nice.
no, so yeah, no, you make a good point though. So yeah, anything we do with like a sticker or something adhesive, or something like that, um, we don't use joist tape an absolute ton. I mean, we definitely, on beams and certain applications, we definitely, we definitely keep a case of G tape in the truck at all
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
times. But we were part of, I choose my words carefully here. We were kind of part of the inventing process of Fasten Master's roll-on membrane.
Mm-hmm.
So we were using another brands. They're a Canadian company,
Yep.
and
I know of him.
okay, I'm sure. Um, so what happened is,
Shout out to Terry.
yeah. So when we did the first icon, Fasten Master. I don't, you couldn't get it, but when Fasten Master
No,
came out
they
with their icon stuff, um, we did the first one. Actually, I think another company in Connecticut kind of helped invent it, and then we did the first actual install. And we brought out the waterproofing, and we started rolling it on, and everybody was like, what's that? I'm like, yeah, dude,
mm-hmm.
like we don't really, like
Mm-hmm.
on applications like this, we roll it. It saves time, and blah blah blah. And I gotta tell you, I put up a bunch of videos online about the membrane, and everybody's got their way of doing things. Everybody's got their opinion. I definitely think that both for sure have their avenue.
Hmm.
I think people think like we just slap the stuff on everything. I've gotten comments and I'm like, no, no, no. Listen, like we definitely still use tape for sure. Tape will never go away.
Right.
but yeah, no wrinkles. We don't like wrinkles.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I go berserk as well. If I'm trying to lace up, lace up like a white piece, a 12-inch wide piece of tape, and I get something sideways, man, I got to pull it back up and
Yeah.
redirect and smooth and I'll look at something I did applied and I look at my crew and I look what they just did and I'm like, oh man, I'm just gonna have to go back and redo that.
Yeah. Right.
Or teach these guys more. But sometimes there's things that you can't train. It's just repetition
Yeah.
and repetition, and then showing them, hey, this is how I do it. You guys do it the way you want, but this is how I do it. And watch me. Like, oops, I got a little wrinkle. I'll quickly rip it. Quickly
Yeah.
rip the tape up, so I don't rip the tape in half, but I'm able to pull it, the tack off of it, and lay it back in. Even if it takes a little bit of wood grain pattern with it or something, it's still doable.
And it's
Cool. Well, that
taking
was a
pride in your
cool.
work, right? It's taken
Mhm.
it's that it's nice and straight.
It's funny because
It's
yeah, I do. I care about every single aspect that I do. Like when I'm driving screws, if I can't put them in a straight line, I mean, I don't know how you're using that Fastenmaster gun.
oh boy,
Because
I knew you were gonna touch on it.
I mean, you brought up Fastenmaster, so and I love those
For
guys.
sure.
Don't get me wrong, I love
Yeah, they're
Master. I
great.
love but the funny thing is, he said Icon, haven't they abandoned the
They
whole Icon?
Yeah, we got caught because the guy who was running it, Ernie, and what a great guy, and he was my
I've
rep.
met Ernie.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean he was my rep, and then they
Mm-hmm.
kind of pulled him on icon, and I mean I knew multiple contractors in Connecticut. There was a gentleman in a timber tech guy in Rhode Island, and it was like I think almost every job he did, he was like the icon guy. Like we would call him the icon guy. He was helping them figure out like different beams using icon and everything else. I just
Okay, hold on, hold on. So for people listening or watching this on YouTube, Icon is a joist system that Fastenmaster came out with, and I thought it was brilliant because they took the engineering and the math of a web truss and they turned it into a deck joist. Okay, so let that sink in for a second. So they were getting a span, like a ridiculous span, out of two by fours and a bunch of they look like timber
headlocks
locks.
almost, yeah.
Yeah, like some of their locking fasteners, but the way they installed them on a 45V formation, if you go into like any Home Depot or a large facility and you look up, and I always do this, I walk in Home Depot, man, I don't look at the aisles and the tools. I go straight up and I just look up at the ceiling because I'm like, man, look at this structure. How's this hold snow? And but you'll see either engineered lambs or you're going to see web trusses. Like a lot of times web trusses are made out of steel, but they also are made out of wood. And I've actually built a couple of decks on homes where I'm like, I cannot hit anything on this ledger. What the heck? And because it's 19 and 3/16 on center. Well, those little diamond marks on your tape measure because it's a web truss layout on your home. And I had no idea. I had to learn all that. When I cut a hole in the wall and stuck my head in there, and I was like, oh, no wonder I'm not grabbing anything. But every 19 and 3/16, there's something solid to grab to. So it's kind of interesting how that works. And I'm sure you know more about that being in commercial, but being a residential builder for most of my life, I did not. That was like a rude awakening for me until I did a little bit more research. Thank goodness, and later in my career, the internet was a thing. Like when I started building decks, there was no internet, or there was virtually hardly anything of an internet, and there definitely wasn't a social media platform or a channel where you could watch videos on how to do stuff. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So that was like I went to the School of Hard Knocks a lot of times for this kind of stuff, but that's interesting because seeing a residential home built commercially is kind of the bones are incredible. Like all the walls are at least 2x6, and the floors are all web trusses and everything's built. I mean, built to be built. It's solid. So that was a really interesting learning lesson for me as far as construction.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean I thought icon was I will admit, like we didn't really come on too strong, with the idea. Just, I think it was a big time savings thing, because
Hmm.
everything was ready to go. They would give you the measurement of what you had to rip down your ledger to. You would rip down your ledger, and then, you'd have to solid block your rim out and this and that. And we did one. I thought it was a great system, but with doing curves or custom features, it was extremely difficult to do. Like I said, we know a builder in our same town. He did a bunch of them, and there were times where he ran into not issues, but have to go back and forth with engineering trying to figure out how to make something work. Um, I mean, listen, we could certainly get into the conversation of fiberglass reinforced composite framing and aluminum
Aluminum.
framing, and I love it. I mean, it's nobody can argue that it's the way of the future. You can't argue that. I mean, we install the same deck board. I mean, you're
Yeah.
putting down a 50-year board, and with wood, which we frame almost everything still in wood,
Hmm.
admittedly, and um, that's going to change. I'm not going to say
Hmm.
too much, but very, very shortly from now, that's already in the process
You're
of
gonna
of a
find
change.
clients. You're gonna find clients that are gonna want it. They're gonna want to upgrade to that. I want my grandkids to enjoy this deck kind of thing, and
For
that's where
sure.
those that's where the opportunity to upgrade people into a premium frame exists. So definitely interesting that you say that. And just so turning back to Fastmaster real quick, it's like that company knows how to pivot. They
Ooh,
know when to cut loose of something
yes,
because
they do.
I mean they tried really hard with their fusion lock gun, and I was on board with it and I was using that thing and
I
and
remember.
we were dealing with all the little nuances and the tricks and the troubles and the this and the that, and they finally just said, you know what, this is a lost leader. We're gonna do something else. And I was just like, please just make a clip like camo and we'll just use those and those will be amazing, And I know they're working on something, but it isn't out yet.
It's
And
not.
I've seen the
Yeah,
prototypes
I
and I'm
have
like,
as
okay.
well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
I,
Um,
I, 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 we love cortexing. Well, I can't.
oh yeah,
Let me reword that. I hate cortexing, but it's definitely. I mean, listen, I'll argue with anybody. It's definitely the best way to secure a deck board down. Do I enjoy
100%.
do I enjoy plugging 4,000 holes? No, of course not. But you talk about the gun, the PAMFAST gun. Um, I put up a video and everybody bashed me. Oh, you're not chalk lining, and that particular video was getting ready to rain, so it would have washed away anyways. But we've definitely chalk lined. I understand completely what you're talking about. With that little jump. When it starts to seat down. Um, I'm myself. I haven't even talked to him about it, but we have a 3D printer. It's sitting right next to me that I'm working on. So because it has the little pad on the bottom there. I'm trying to work on something to where it'll like grip the deck, without scuffing the deck. Um, because we all know that you take a heat gun and we could fix the deck board, but nobody
Yeah,
wants to
but you
do
don't
that
want to.
4,000
No,
times.
no.
But
That plus, if they had a way, they could put a barrel that the screw had to go into this barrel.
yes,
It couldn't
yes,
walk right left. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to abandon the gun because I couldn't stand not. And I had it on the short. I didn't use the long extensions. They're like, Jason, don't you
yeah,
want to get off your knees? I've had these guns a year ago, and I'm like, no. I said, and they looked at me like I was nuts. And I'm like, dude, I've been building decks for 35 years. I've been on my knees my entire career. It's too late for me.
yeah,
It
right.
doesn't matter. It
They're
doesn't really
done.
matter anymore. I wear knee pads every single day of my life. So, but to keep that screw in a perfect line,
Yeah.
it's nearly impossible to do with that technology at the point it's at right now.
And I agree. I mean, we're certainly, we're trying to figure, because when we snap a line, even if you see, because there's that little like half round where the screw goes down,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
try to line it up. And then there's time, you're doing a miter or you're doing something where you got to get really, really close to the edge. You can't use it on inlays or a herringbone or
No.
something like that anyways. I will, I did shorten it down. We just finished the job. It was on
Mm-hmm.
45s, kind of meeting at
Mm-hmm.
a herringbone. tried it and, again, brought out the tubs and just started hand screwing,
Yep.
you know.
Subfloors on a house, dude, all day
Oh, all day.
long. All
Absolutely.
day and night, even
Absolutely.
blindfolded. I would use
Absolutely.
that thing. But if you're still okay, so if you're using the PAMFAST gun, you're cortexing that deck. And if you can live with a zigzag of Cortex plugs, by all means, grab it and go. But I like to have straight lines even when I can't see the fasteners, because I see that stuff. And I
Yeah.
just got to, when I walk away from something, because I tried a line, I had my guy try a line, and we both said he did better than I did because I wanted to do it as if I was actually using it like I would
Yeah, you're
use it.
going. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're running and gunning. The whole idea is pick up speed, be accurate, and don't have to face your screws anymore, which we spend hours just facing buckets of screws.
Yeah.
I pay my guys $25 a box to face screws at home and bring them to work the next day, all in the same direction.
Well, it
Don't
saves time though,
don't
right?
knock it
I mean,
over. 100%. I'm not spending an hour at work doing it.
and then
You
getting
know.
poked, not for nothing, but I mean, that
Yeah,
gets old.
yeah. Yeah, so I've often posted photographs of how nice our screws look in our boxes
I've
of
seen
stacked
them.
screws.
I can attest for those posts. I've seen them. I've seen them.
So anyway, yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's talk a little bit more construction. We won't get into specifics about deckboard bending, but let's talk a little bit more about like what you're doing, how you're building, what do you have coming up, what have you have sold. And one thing I've noticed this summer, my calls and emails have gone really slowly this year for some reason. We're not getting nearly the amount of inquiries that we have in the past. How about you?
So, you know me. I mean, we've seen each other all over the country, right? I think you know by
Mm-hmm.
now I'm a super straight shooter. So I will admit, before this year, I had, I mean, very, very minimal social media. I had like a little website that I went on and just, like kind of threw together, non-existent Google, non-existent anything. Um, Very blessed, that we were able to keep extremely busy with not having a presence. So over the winter, we went ahead and we got the fancy website and got an SEO guy and everything else, and so we're booked. Definitely through fair into 2026. Definitely, we build quite a few trade show displays for
Mm-hmm.
AZAC. We love doing that. Absolutely love it. So there's some of that stuff coming up that we always do. Um, as far as we're going on a little 12 by 20, we're starting tomorrow. Should be able to knock that out in a few days. Then we go to what's going to be our Nadra entry this year. So
Mm.
um, you want to talk brands or as
Yeah,
far
man.
as okay,
Hey,
so
hey, it's up to you. Like what you want to talk about.
yeah,
We're
no,
not
100%.
we're not regulated on this podcast yet.
Yeah,
No one
100%.
pays us.
Yeah,
I
if we're
love
not
it.
sponsored, we aren't regulating what we're talking
I
about.
All
don't
right.
see a cent, so I don't care.
I love
Yeah, yeah.
so
What Calvin said.
I love it. So obviously TimberTech AZEK, the only decking we use, the only decking we sell. I won't install another deck board. I like their product. We stick by them.
Yeah.
So
If it ain't
um,
broke,
yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, I think we see that in the industry, right? A lot of different stuff coming out. Some of it, I don't know, I don't know if I would use. I don't know if I could stand behind it. So we're going to be doing actually, I think it's got to be close to 800 square foot, actually OC lumber frame. It's going to be, I mean, we've built with some OC. We do love it up until now. We love it for stair stringers. We don't really
yeah.
show it too much, but we do love it for stair stringers. And so we talked with them and sorry, Fasten Master, but Starborn, just came out with their whole structural fastener that matches all the OC lumber. So we're going to be bringing all that onto the job and kind of working with that. So we're going to be doing a whole OC lumber job. It's going to have a nice inlay in it. TrueScapes lighting, all over the place. We're using their, RGB stuff. And then we're going on to a couple good size ones We got a couple paver patio deck combos. Uh, so, that kind of switches it up a little bit. I mean, we have the machinery to do it, so, we definitely knock that stuff out. But yeah, so we're booked through. We have IBS, that we go to. I don't know if we'll end up going to Deck Expo this year, so I left a couple breaks in the schedule, for that stuff. But for the most part, we're, got a couple four season rooms. We try to head a little bit inside in the winter, try to stay out of the cold as much as possible. And yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, so I definitely have seen. I don't know if I've necessarily seen the inquiries slow down. Maybe a tad. I've seen the amount of money and willingness to spend money slow down. People aren't just, okay, book it. There's definitely a lot more research.
They're not
100%.
committing as quickly.
A
Yeah.
lot
Okay.
more,
Fair.
a lot more quoting. A lot more. Hey, can I get, you know, a vintage, a landmark, and a harvest quote? Instead of just like, hey, let's do vintage. And
Yeah.
it's like,
You know what I say? They're all the same price. Take your pick.
right. But like, and people don't, and I think some people don't understand, right? Like, so we quote for free. And
Hmm.
then, we used to do drawings. We no longer do drawings for free because we had people stealing them and then people using
Hmm.
our ideas and going with a lesser
Yeah.
contractor and they weren't coming out like our drawing anyways. So,
If you
you
want to
know,
know how much Joe charges for those, go subscribe to our Patreon channel. We're going to talk about that. Put that in your notes, dude.
yeah,
We're going to talk
100%.
and
100%.
I'll share my information as well, but it's going to be on Patreon.
Yeah,
So
100%.
okay, so finish. Go ahead and finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt
no,
you
no,
there.
no, that's okay. So, I just find a lot more of that this year, a lot more of the taking 2 months. I just had a gentleman call me. We went to the appointment today and I talked to him before the winter and he was like, hey, we talked before the winter, I think I'm ready to go with this. And it's like, well, then you got to have the difficult conversation. Listen, like that price isn't, I mean, that's not the price anymore. I wish it was, but it's not. I'm sorry.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot more of that this year. I definitely find
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
it's
enough.
correcting itself.
So, how many people do you have working for you right now?
So we're four. So we're a small company. Just hired another one that starts on Monday.
Hmm.
Which we know him. He'll be a great addition to the company. Um, Not going too much into it, but there's been a lease signed, so that's going to be exciting. Can't really let out too much
Nice.
details about what's going to happen with that yet, but I think there'll definitely be a second crew on the road next year. We're just being very careful with that because we can't lose our identity and the work and who we do. We find a lot of people do the yeah, I have like my A crew and then my B crew. I don't want to have a B crew. That's not what we do. That's not who we are.
Right.
So we're just trying to figure out how to navigate through that.
Sure. No, understandable. Yeah. That's always a pinch point when you're trying to grow and keep the same quality that you've always had is difficult. I find that when I leave the job site, things just don't finish the way that I normally would have done it. So it's
Right? What's that
interesting to
saying?
see
When the cat's away, the mouse will play, right?
something like that,
Something.
or
Yeah.
when the cat's away, the translation is lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what
Well,
it is, but sometimes it works and sometimes not so much. So it just depends on what you're looking for, right?
100%
So
for sure.
okay, so you're kind of hinting a little bit on some stuff in the future, and that was going to be one of my questions is where do you see OSB going in the near future and further beyond that? You're still pretty young, so you've got quite a bit of road ahead of you still.
Well, I hope so. We like to think so, but um, definitely. I would say as far as brand partnerships, not influence. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about social,
Mm-hmm.
existing, like what we use on our jobs and so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. Definitely, to us, AZAC TimberTech, they're the brand. That's who we use. Fasteners. We love Fasten Master. We love our current relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, like I said, a lease has been signed. I don't know. We really want to try to focus on total outdoor living. I think, we got deck remodelers right there in New Jersey,
Yeah,
fantastic builder. I mean, he builds some
yeah,
beautiful stuff. We just have to, we have a little bit different clientele, and
yeah.
it's navigating through
Sean's a
that
great
clientele.
builder.
He
Like
so
Sean is,
is.
he's really figured out how to make it happen.
He has, for sure.
Well, hey Joe, is there anything you want to talk about?
I,
We're getting close to winding down the regular podcast. So, is there anything else you want to broadcast out to our audience?
No, I mean, listen, we're a small family-owned company, that we enjoy what we do, and we're going to continue doing that, and I think scale up a little bit, and
Hmm.
you never know what the future holds. Things have changed, through COVID and this and that. The industry has definitely changed, but we don't look at really the competition thing. We, that more like collaborate instead of competition kind of situation.
Yeah,
We choose in life our decisions, right? And owning our own business, you could kind of do what you want to do, so on and so forth. But, I told you that, this stuff's very important to me, relationships with great people. I mean, we see you everywhere, and, we've went from like oh my God, like I want to meet Dr. Dex, like a kid at a candy store kind of situation to, we've shared information and, just talk kind
have
of
you
just
been?
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
at the
cool.
last trade show I saw you, I was with my wife, and we were in a very long line for coffee, and the show was getting ready to start, and I was obligated to be in certain locations at certain times, and I was like, we're going to be late. It's unprofessional, and you said, hey doctor, come here, I'll buy you coffee, and we skipped like 10 people. And I could feel the fumes as I'm walking past all these people. But you just put our whole breakfast, coffee, everything on your bill. You're like, yeah, just get him whatever he wants. Yeah, you want one of these? Oh, yeah, I'll get an extra one. Here you go. And you shoved us out the door. And I was able to eat on my way to the show, and I was on time. So that's the kind of guy Joe is like, he just wants you to succeed, man. He,
100%.
he's in it to win it.
And I wonder how, personally, coming from more of an outside perspective, I don't build anything, how these people, how they like talk online or like don't show up or late, how it reflects to their clients. I'm like, would you treat a client like that? Because I don't think you would. So why would you treat anyone else like that?
Good point, Cal.
Yeah, no,
That's just my
100%.
perspective. I don't know.
I
mean,
just
we're
like
not
to
giving
treat
out.
people right, I don't
Yeah,
know.
man. We're not giving out $100 bills here, but it still has value for you to be on this collaboration because I'm going to promote it. You
Listen,
know,
and
And
further
show
than
up to
that, right?
McDonald's late.
Yeah, right. See, and you know what? To me, like it's so much more than that, like so much deeper. I just enjoy collaborate, you know what I mean, and having a great
hmm
conversation with someone
hmm
that's been in this so much longer than we have, and obviously an expert in your field, and listen, I watch you every day. I go on
Oh,
Instagram and I click your, and see what's going on,
check
and it's like,
check in.
yeah, what I mean, and it's cool, right? Because you're kind of living through you without living through you kind of situation,
Sure.
and I can't sit here and say like, oh, I've never used something that Dr. Dex did. I mean, you almost taught me how to heat bend without teaching me how to heat bend. You know what I mean? It's so there's value
Yeah.
in
You
everything in
can
life.
you can always take Dr. Dick's masterclass and pay me back if you'd
You
like.
can't.
I'm just kidding, Joe. I think you're fully capable, and you don't need any other instruction. Like you've done enough of the trial and error to figure it out.
Lost enough deck
And
boards, that's for sure.
yeah, man, I get it.
Part of
Awesome.
it.
Okay, so how are people if they want to get a hold of you, how do we get a hold of Joe?
So, I mean, Instagram, Outdoor Space Builders. You could go to osbct.com is our website. Go on Google, Outdoor Space Builders, Connecticut, and my number's 203-715-7853. I'm the one who picks up the phone. So yeah, if you ever want to talk, whatever, I'm here.
Awesome.
Give him a call right now.
All right, Joe Master Santi.
Yes, sir.
Joe Master Santi of Outdoor Space Builders. Thank you very much for being on our podcast. I'm glad to get
Thank
to know
you.
you a little bit more. Another chef. We've had quite a few of aspiring chefs that changed trades, lickety split, and went into deck building or something about decks. It's interesting. You're like the fourth person that has a culinary degree. But I think that's rad because, like, I'm going to put you to it, man. Next time I see you, I'm going to put you in front of a stove or give you a raw steak and say,
man.
let's go.
I don't know. I'm not saying that I haven't seen the nice wolf range in that kitchen of yours, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw a video. That's all I'm
You know
saying.
what? You know what though? That's what's fun is like I used to cook a lot. I wore out a Viking range
That's
over
what I
20
have.
years.
Yeah.
You know, I wore out that and then I turned to my wife. I'm like, I don't want another Viking. She goes, well, what do you want? I go, I want a wolf. I want a
Yeah.
Sub-Zero. I want a sub and I want a wolf.
Yeah.
And I'll get the dang Cove's dishwasher when the time is right. But I'm tired of this Viking. It's half the burners don't work, and I just went with an 8-burner. Man,
it's big. Yeah, I
it's
saw
bad.
it.
It's a bad boy. It's a bad boy range, and I'm digging it, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So, shout out to Wolf and Sub-Zero if they want to provide us with some outdoor kitchen appliances. Man, I'd be all in on that.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to click that subscribe button if you are watching this on YouTube. And thank you, Joe, so much. If you guys want to hear all the good stuff, stay tuned. Go over to our Patreon channel and sign up. It only costs $5 a month, but you can pay us $50 if you want. It just depends on the level you guys want to be at. All right, guys. Thanks again, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Have a great day. Over and out.